Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. And I would like to talk about my personal experience in Japan. Okay, welcome back. So the reason why I decided to talk about this in this video is because quite a few of you have asked me this question in the comments below, and sometimes even if I don't answer comments, I still read them. I still read many comments, and I noticed that a few people were curious. Some people asked me whether I have spent some time in Japan or not. Some people asked me how long I was there, and other people asked me why, and they simply asked me to tell this story, which I think is rather interesting because my experience in Japan was very, very nice, although sometimes it was really tough as well. So it's sort of a balanced experience between good and bad, light and darkness. So I was in Japan for almost 4 years, although you have to consider the first time I went to Japan, I was there only for 3 months, and that was when I was a university student, because my major at university was indeed Japanese language and culture, and I had decided to go to Japan and spend some time there, and so 3 months, to do some research for my university thesis. Okay, so I went there and spent 3 months with university money. I had a scholarship from the University of Naples, which allowed me to go there as a student and spend a lot of time to study and do research. So what kind of research did I do? Of course I did linguistic research, and it was good because I could practice my Japanese. At that time I already had 3 years of Japanese classes basically at university as a major, so I did have an overall understanding of the basic rules so I could express myself. Okay, I wasn't particularly fluent just yet, but I could still understand people. So I went there to improve my language skills a little bit, and it did help. But I was there also to do historical research. In fact, I spent quite a bit of time in Kyoto. Why? Because basically my thesis was mostly focused on imperial Kyoto and basically the times of samurai. So I did research, I went to visit the castle, I visited a lot of shrines, and basically shrines and Buddhist temples, so Shintoism and Buddhism, and I have interviewed a few Buddhist monks who were kind enough to dedicate some time. They were very patient with my Japanese at the time, and I had prepared quite a lot of questions with my university professors, and so I could actually ask some questions about the concept of the kami in Shintoism, so the idea of this God which is more like a natural spirit and everything. So I did that, and then so that was the first time I was in Japan. Then I went back after graduating And after my graduation, I went back to Japan. I was still there initially. I was going to spend 3 months, but ended up spending 3.5 years. So this is why I say I was there, roughly speaking, around 4 years. So the second time I went there looking for a job, I found it within a fortnight, so 2 weeks, 3 weeks, really, a month-ish. And after starting to look for one, and I found a job as a translator. So I worked for a company called Sanyo Suisan, and it was mostly a company dealing with import-export between Japan and Italy. So I worked for them. Occasionally I also did other jobs, and I tried part-time jobs, and sometimes they even gave me a sort of responsibility to deal with customers and on the phone, which was fantastic for my Japanese, because I had to answer around 100 to 150 phone calls a day, and I had to do that in Japanese. At first, of course, it was a bit difficult because I had to review all the honorific and humble way of speaking that they have, because please keep in mind that Japanese is a very, very formal language, and it's fully encapsulated within their social structure. So all of this meant that I had to sort of modify the way I would speak. So my Japanese was very casual at the time. I could speak quite well, I could make myself understood, but dealing with clients in Japanese is a completely different kettle of fish, and as a matter of fact, it is sometimes difficult and challenging even for the Japanese when they're very young, for example, teenagers or secondary school students. Anyways, so I was there and I was working, but was I in Japan for work? Not really, because again, the reason why I had decided to move to Japan was to improve my language skills and also to do some anthropological research in the meantime, because if you want to really understand and learn a language, then you need to deeply comprehend the culture. Otherwise, you will just repeat. You will basically take your own first language and you will just dress it up as Japanese or English or whatever language you're learning, but you will not use the expression they use. You will just form your structure, your sentences using your own native structure, and then you will cover it up with the foreign words, and that's not the way. That's not excellency in language learning and proficiency. So I went there to see how the Japanese lived, and as a matter of fact, something I did was not only trying to make as many friends as I could in order to practice my language skills, of course, and because it was nice to make friends anyways, but also I started going to dojo. So I wanted to learn martial arts not only because I have been interested in fighting styles, combat and martial arts since I was a child, really, but also because it was a good way to see how the Japanese, because you see, martial arts are tremendously linked to their lifestyle. I mean, people who practice judo, you see them go around dressed in judogi or judo clothing, and that's the same for karate, that's the same for kendo. You can see that they go around, and sometimes you see them go in a supermarket or a mini market and they buy groceries and food and wearing their martial art clothing. And that's something, for example, here in Italy, it doesn't really happen, but that's because for them it's like when an Italian boy is just dressed up in football clothing and is about to go play football, and perhaps he goes with his mother and his father to the supermarket beforehand to buy Gatorade or whatever. So there is very well integrated. And another thing that I really liked, it was to go and have a look at some dojo that you find in schools and university, secondary school, because they have dojos there, because they practice martial arts as a afternoon or secondary activity, sometimes even in the morning. They practice kyudo, they have the teenagers, boys and girls, practice martial arts, naginata do, sometimes kendo, of course, judo, aikido, karate, and all these styles. So that was interesting, but again, practicing martial arts in Japan, how was that? Practicing martial arts in Japan was fascinating. I had practiced karate in Italy when I was a teenager for 4 years, so I already had an overall understanding of how Japanese martial arts are taught. But going to Japan, I practiced 3 years of kendo and 1 year of kyokushin karate. And it was tremendously fascinating. It was really, really fun. I also tried one lesson of judo. just because I wanted to try. But it wasn't really my style. It wasn't really my cup of tea, I'm afraid. But karate was nice. It was full contact. It was rather tough, and I'm not particularly good at martial arts, but I'm more of an intellectual type. But I liked it. It was good fun, and I liked it because I could, sometimes when you practice karate or kendo or whatever, any Japanese martial art in a foreign country like Italy, France, Spain, America, I suppose, what happens is they tell you, we teach you the commands and the moves in Japanese, so that if a Japanese comes here and you have to have a lesson in Japanese, you could actually understand it. No, that's not the case. I myself, regardless of the fact that I had practiced martial arts in Japan using Japanese terms that they teach you at the dojo when I was a teenager, I already knew how to count from 0 to 10. I already knew how to say punch and mawashi geri, yoko geri, mae geri, etc. And regardless of the fact I had on top of that a whole university degree in Japanese, it was not easy to follow along the explanations of a actual full lesson of kendo or karate in Japanese. Why? Because of course I could understand the moves and the commands, but they don't just say kick, punch, roundhouse or whatever, or front kick. No, they actually start telling you, like, okay, when he comes to you, then what you need to do, you need to dodge and move, and then as he moves, in the very moment that you're moving, you're extending your fist, and make sure you lock in your joints, and you do this and you do that, and all of that is in Japanese. And if you don't know those words, you won't understand a thing. You can try to understand from the context, but it will be difficult. So I had to do a lot of research. It took me a few months before I could actually go and listen to an entire lesson in a dojo or at a dojo and fully understand and thoroughly understand it. Did I manage to get to that point? I did eventually. It took me around, I think, 4 months before I was 100% comfortable with everything they would say, and it did happen. So it was nice, because also for my sensei, they were always very impressed by the fact that a foreign person could understand them when they would speak Japanese, and I think that I have a pretty good level in Japanese now. So that was fun, and so that's one of the things I did, and I'm glad I did, because regardless of the fact that I don't consider myself to be an expert in these styles, practicing them in Japan opened a door to their culture. Also because I met friends, and with these friends we went to the restaurant, we ate together, we talked, we went to ramen-ya to eat ramen, we went to other places, like they have these sort of pubs where they drink sake, which are interesting, because you see Japanese in all these different situations. They go to karaoke a lot, or karaoke like you say in English, but it's karaoke in Japanese. As a matter of fact, kara means empty, like karate, empty hand, but oke is actually English. It's supposed to be orchestra, so it would be empty orchestra, karaoke. It's a similar thing. They're just cutting it, it's hyphenated. It's a similar situation with the word Pokemon. It's actually pocket monster. It's Pokemon. That's what they do. It's a Japanese thing. Why do they do it to English? Because they do it in Japanese. When they speak Japanese, they do that a lot. They take two words and they cut the ends and put the stems together to create a new word. So that's what they do sometimes in Japanese, in English as well. Anyways, it was a great experience. 4 years. How can I sum up 4 years in one explanation? Well, this is really the general idea of why I was there and pretty much what I did. Practice language learning, and made a lot of friends, went to a lot of activities. I cried with the Japanese, laughed with the Japanese, loved the Japanese. Sometimes they got on my nerves, but it was good. I worked with them, I laughed with them, I had fun with them, I joined their activities. I tried to understand this culture to the best of my abilities. I worked a lot because I don't come from a wealthy family, so I had to not only support myself entirely monetarily, but sometimes when I had a little bit of extra, I would also send it back to my parents in order to help my family out a little bit, and I'm proud of that. But then again, I still had sometimes I worked so much that I could get a little bit of extra also for myself, so I could travel, and I went to quite a lot of places. I visited some like the Daibutsu, the giant Buddha statue that you have in Japan. You've got two actually. One is in Kanagawa Ken, and the other one is in Nara, and they were very, very nice to see. And I've seen quite a lot of castles, and the Japanese castles. As a matter of fact, I will make a few videos on Japanese castles. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience. I think I will tell you more about it. Like for this video, I think this sort of sums it up a little bit, but I will give you more. I will tell you actual experiences of me meeting people, talking to farmers, and going around and spending some time with the Japanese doing really, really interesting things. So if you're interested, let me know in the comments below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Ask me whatever you want. If I find a question to be interesting, I will answer it in the comments, and if I find it to be rather deep, then I will make a video response to it, just like I did today. Remember that I upload daily. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.